Okay, let's do this. What to say about Dolls from director Stuart Gordon? I'll give my final take on the film at the end of the review, of course, but I want to tell you a bit about my impression of the film before I go into the recap and commentary. I actually hadn't seen this film yet until it was requested by several people, mostly just after I did Child's Play. When I first turned it on, I shut it off after 15 minutes or so. The acting was so bad it was ridiculous, but I couldn't make up my mind if it was the acting or the lines that made it so bad, or it was likely a combination of both. It was a bizarre beginning, to say the least, and it reminded me a lot of the movie Clue from 1985. Just the feel and the environment being set in a giant house, but I'll touch on that later. It was a rough start for sure, but it was requested, so I toughed through the crap and I found a half-decent movie on the other side. Details on this movie are few and far between if you're looking. I wasn't able to find out how the movie did financially, only some quirky facts on the movie. I figured they would have shot the movie in the States or maybe England, but it was actually shot in Italy. I'm not sure why they chose that, but I know that some films are shot there for lowering costs, so I'd imagine that would be it. The film had great special effects, and they used stop motion and puppetry to move the dolls around and punch the jester. It's a great form of art not seen very much in film today. It actually won for Best Special Effects in the Fanta Festival that year. So let's take a look at a very underrated film that, although very flawed, still has charm. Here's Stuart Gordon's Dolls from 1987. The opening music, which has never been released as far as I know, other than in the movie, starts off decently creepy. And I didn't realize that porcelain doll faces could also be so creepy. Either I'm a pussy or you feel the same way. Well, to start off, we meet the two British hitchhikers, who almost get hit by a car and then yell out in the most fake accents that I've ever heard. The chat in the car is so forced it's lame. The lines just make you puke. This is the rough start I was talking about. So the car gets stuck in mud, and the dad, David, goes out to push the car. And then he kicks it, but it's not the car, it's the mud, so it's just another nonsensical scene. Rosemary, the stepmom, is almost unbearable to look at. Moving on. They can't move the car, so they head for the house they see down the road. Judy, the daughter, lags behind, and the stepmother tosses her teddy bear into the bush. Prep for this. A giant bear comes out of the bushes, and you're like, what the fuck? And then it turns vicious, and then tears the parents apart. Only then do you realize it's a daydream. Okay, a little girl daydreams this? What the hell is wrong with her? But the bizarreness is just beginning. Is that a word? Bizarreness? I'm not sure. The good thing is, the film actually becomes worth watching after this point, and it's very imaginative. A nice way of saying insane. They sneak into the basement of the large house. They get busted by Gabriel and Hillary, the owners of the house, and secretly witches. These two characters are easily the best actors in the film. Judy sees a room full of dolls and is blown away. They sit at the table and eat soup, and Gabriel talks about himself being a doll maker. Gabriel gives her Mr. Punch to keep her company, and it's the creepiest doll. The British girls show up with Ralph, a lovable character that's young at heart. One of the better actors in the film as well. The British girls, though, you're just thinking, shut up the whole time. They're all being shown to their rooms one by one, and this part reminds me of the house in Clue from 1985. The large house, and strangers in it together. There's a scene with Gabriel, Judy, and Ralph in Gabriel's shop, and they talk about how they feel about toys. I won't spoil that part because it's actually one of the better parts of the movie, so just give it a look. The British chicks make a plan to swipe some stuff from the house and make off with it. We'll get back to them. The parents are in bed talking about getting rid of the kid. They have no heart in this film at all whatsoever. Judy reads Hansel and Gretel in bed. There's actually some similarities between the two stories. The British girl, Isabella, is in a room taking some valuables, but someone keeps turning on the music box. The dolls grab her arms and legs and then ram her into the wall. It doesn't kill her, but I definitely wasn't expecting that. She calls for Judy to help her, only to be dragged back into the room. Judy tells her folks, but they don't buy it. David goes to slap her, like, easy bud, worst actor ever. Judy scares the piss out of Ralph. She tells him that one of the British girls got killed. Ralph doesn't buy it either, until he spots blood on her slippers. They both go to investigate it, and they find blood smeared all over the floor. Then they investigate the attic, but it was too dark to find anything. Ralph gets tripped up by the dolls and falls down the stairs. Ralph tells Enid, the other British girl, and the folks about what they saw, and the dad jumps to the conclusion that Ralph's a pervert, and I really don't see the sense in that. Gabriel finds Ralph, and Ralph tells Gabriel about the little people, and Gabriel seems pleased at his ability to believe the child. Rosemary is laying in bed when a horde of dolls attack her. The producer wanted this movie to be more like director Gordon's previous one, Reanimator, and made this scene and the scene where David discovers her dead more gory than originally intended. So far, the movie, minus the beginning, is a decent fantasy horror flick. Enid is out looking for Isabel. She heads up to the attic. She hears her friend call, "Go back," and then she holds up a candle to her and, well, watch this. Wow, that's insane. The dolls attack Enid. She steps on some and sets others on fire. It's a chaotic scene. She runs into some toy soldiers who take aim and fire. 2 rounds and she's down for the count. Ralph and Judy go into the storage room where they find a ton of dolls. After turning on the light, Ralph awes at the collection. The dolls stand up and surround Ralph. He attacks them and they pile on Ralph. Poor guy. Meanwhile, this idiotic dad gets into bed with his dead wife, pulls his sheets off, and finds her mutilated. The gore is cool, but the scene is comical, it's so bad. The toys let Ralph and Judy out. David thinks that Ralph killed Judy and goes after him. They do battle in Gabriel's workshop. When Punch, the doll, comes alive to defend Judy. The struggle goes on. David destroys the workshop. Then David destroys Punch. Gabriel and Hillary come down to the workshop, and Gabriel has some wise words to say, while at the same time turning him into a doll to replace Punch. It's actually a great scene. Gabriel's words are actually well written and sound wise. It's kind of like an evil Gandalf. The morning comes and Gabriel and Hillary find Judy and Ralph sleeping. They wake them. Ralph waking up is hilarious. It's an odd ending, however, with Gabriel telling Judy that her dad and stepmother ran off never to be seen again, and Ralph is in charge of bringing her home to Boston, Judy mentioning her mom is single. It's funny when Ralph asks about the 2 hitchhikers and Gabriel says, "Ah yes, PPS, I'm taking the 2 hitchhikers with me." It's so absurd, and then he tosses the letter into the fire. A comical moment. Judy finds her teddy bear and then hands it over to the witches to keep until next summer, when she plans to see them again. Ralph drives off with Judy, and another car rolls in only to get stuck in the mud, ending dolls. So, what to make of this film? One thing I find is nothing is what it seems to be in this movie at all. Another thing I find is that the witches, Gabriel and Hillary, really serve as both antagonists and protagonists, depending on how you look at the movie. On one hand, they lure people into their home and catch them in a storm, like a spider waits for an insect to land on its web. Then they change them into dolls where they become part of an immortal collection. However, they remove terrible parents away from Judy and set Ralph and her back home where Judy will be with people who care about her. They also really only turn people into dolls who have lost their inner child, or are bad in some way, like Isabella stealing from them. It's also interesting that director Stuart Gordon was thinking of a sequel that would have included Judy and Ralph in Boston, Ralph now married to Judy's mother. One day, 2 dolls arrive in the mail, and it's Hillary and Gabriel. I wonder how that would have turned out. It sounds like one of those rare times when a sequel may have actually been better than the original, like Terminator 2. There are actually positive messages in this movie, like stressing honesty, staying young at heart, and others, which make this film, oddly enough, almost a family film, although I wouldn't recommend showing your kids this at a young age. The house it was shot in was great, and the stop animation is refreshing to watch compared to all the CGI used now. I know I knock CGI a lot on this show, but it's just flooded in all the movies now, and I just don't buy it when I see it. Makeup is the way to go, or like this film, stop animation or puppetry. It's a tough go watching this movie's beginning, but I urge you to give it a chance and it will pick up. The acting of the parents and the British girls is really the trying part. Everything else was fine. So I can't believe I'm saying this, especially thinking back to the beginning, but I think this is a must-see for horror fans. And just for being different, I'm giving it a decent 6 out of 10. I read a lot of reviews putting this movie down, but I don't think it's warranted. Although I don't know the budget, I read it was rather low. All in all, decent. This is Pat for HMRG saying thanks for watching, sub for updated posts, and take care.